Okay, Katie, here is an explanation for the homework. So for number 1, solve x squared plus 2x minus 35 equals 0. You're going to write down that equation and FOIL it. That would give you x plus 7, and then also x minus 5 equals 0, which would give you x equals negative 7, and x equals 5, which is A. For 2, determine whether each example represents linear, exponential, or quadratic equation. So a linear line is a straight line with one variable and no exponents, something like y equals mx plus b. Exponential equation, this would be something like x to an exponent, or a variable to an exponent power, so a increasing curved line. Anything that has like a scientific expression is going to be an exponential equation. And then finally, a quadratic equation is something along the lines of ax squared plus bx equals c. This is going to be a U-shaped curve. So clearly with that, the answers here would be A is B, B is C, C is A, D is C, E is A, and F is B. Feel free to text me if you have any questions there. Again, as I mentioned, a bacterial equation doubling every 30 minutes, that's going to be exponential. Height of a roller coaster, that is quadratic because it's a curved line. Total cost of ice cream cone purchased, that's like standard and linear, so that's going to be a linear expression. And then those examples are pretty straightforward in the definitions. For 3, you're going to use the quadratic equation here. So that's what's listed here, and you're going to plug in the numbers. So A is 2, B is 7, and C is negative 5. If you plug that all in, you will get C is equal to 0.6 for the positive, and you'll get C, x equals 0.6 for the positive, and negative 4.1 for the negative. For 4, the discriminant is the equation underneath the square root, b squared minus 4ac. We're using the same equation from 3, and that would give us 49 plus 40 in the discriminant, which would give us C, 89. For 5, sketch the graph. So first of all, the direction, x squared is positive, so that would mean that we're opening upwards. And then we would want to find the vertex, which is the x coordinate would be x equals negative b over 2a. That would give us the vertex, which looks like it's 4, negative 8. And then to find the y coordinate, we would plug x into the quadratic equation. And then finally, to find the y-intercept, it would be x equals 0 in the quadratic equation. For 6, basketball, we first would, the two equations that they give us are written right here. And these are both equal to y, so we can set them equal to each other, which would give us an equation that looks familiar enough to put into a quadratic equation. So when you set them equal to each other and simplify it, you then plug those numbers into the quadratic equation. You would get 31 for B, negative 16 for A, and negative 2 for C. Plugging that all in, you would get x equals 0.1, or 1.9 seconds. Calculate how long it would take Seth to catch the basketball on its way down. So 0.1 seconds is on its way up, and 1.9 seconds is on its way down. For 7, solve the complete square. I wrote out the steps here. So step 1 would be isolate x and x terms. 2 would be divide by the leading coefficient. So if x in that first number is anything higher than, or if it has a number in front of it, you're going to divide by the leading coefficient. 3, you would complete the square. So you would take b and divide it by 2 and square that. And you can add that value to both sides. So for part A, taking our equation, x squared plus 14x plus 31 equals -5. First, you'd isolate x to get that equation in brackets. X squared plus 14x equals -36. Then you would complete the square, so you'd take b, which is 14, divided by 2 and square that. So 14 divided by 2 squared is 49. You'd add 49 to each side, which would leave you x plus 7 squared equals 13, which would give us the answer 7 and 13. For part B, you would plug you'd plug those numbers into the quadratic equation, and that would give you x equals -10.61 or -3.39. For 8, I had a little trouble with this as your tutor, but horizontal compression, the definition for that is anything that has the equation y equals 2x squared. We're compressing the parabola, we're making it skinnier. And then vertical stretch is anytime you multiply by a constant greater than 1. In terms of horizontal stretch and vertical compression, these equations looked really similar to me, so I wasn't able to find the answer here. I'm sure if you had your teacher explain it, they would be able to go over that, because I was confused as well. I would love to know the answer to 8. For 9, given that equation, the two equations, find f times d. So that's pretty simple. We would write out equation f and equation d, and we would distribute the 3x to each term as well as the 5 to each term. That would give you that really long equation, which you would simplify to 12x to the third minus 14x plus 4x minus 10. And those answers are C, C, and B. Use the graph for exercise 10 and 11. So for 10, select all the zeros in the equation. Well, that's easy. You would find the points where our parabola is crossing 0. That would be A and E, -3, 0, and 1, 0. For 10, find the vertex that's the highest point. Well, you would look at the highest point and see what that intercept is, which is -1, 3. And that's a maximum because it's opening downward, so that would be C. For 12, the egg drop, you would take the equation that they gave you, dropped from a height of h0, which is 40, so you'd plug in 40. And then from there, you would solve the equation. So 16t squared equals 40. You'd simplify that down to t equals the square root of 40 over 16, which would give you 1.58 seconds. For 13, which transformations are displayed in that graph? Well, first, we're reflected over the x-axis because we have a negative right at the beginning of our equation. Secondly, using vertex form, that +3 is translating us 3 units to the left. And finally, that -1 at the end, that is telling us that it's 1 unit down. So that would give us A, C, and E. Finally, for 14, the graph, again, we're looking at vertex form here. So that -2 is taking us 2 to the right, and that +10 at the end is 10 units up. 15, what is a quadratic behavior from those graphs? You're looking at something that demonstrates a parabola and not completely linear. B obviously is moving consistently, it is plus, each time we go over 1, we're going +3, that's linear, that doesn't work. D, we are starting from behind 0, that's giving us not a curved line. The only one that's looking like a parabola is if we are increasing at an exponential amount. So the first time from 0 to 1, it's +6. And from 1 to 2, it's +7. From 2 to 3, that's more than 7. So we're increasing at a faster rate each time, and that's a quadratic behavior. For 16, the steps here are you want to find the vertex, which is HK. 2 would be identify another point on the line, and then you'd write that in vertex form, which is y equals a, and then x minus h squared plus 8, or plus k. And then you'd plug HK, the vertex, into that equation, and then plug another point, xy, into that equation and solve for a. So I use -1 and 3 as the vertex for HK, and 1 and 0 for another point xy. Plugged that into my vertex form equation, and at the end I was able to get A equals -0.75. For solving B and C, you can solve a system of equations by using 3 points as x and y, plugging it into your formula ax squared plus bx plus c. Solving all that out, which it'll probably take a while, will give you both your B and your C. I would challenge your teacher to ask for an easier way to do that, because I'm sure there's an easier way that I wasn't able to find. The way that I solved it is with 3 different points. Finally, 17, the vertex is the parabola. It's a positive coefficient, so it's opening upwards, which would mean that our vertex is the lowest point, and that would be a minimum. Finally, 18, we're looking for where the lines intercept each other. So that's D, -1, 0, and 2/-2. For 19, the coefficient of determination is the closest number to 1, which would be A, 0.991. And finally, for 12, we would write in G minus F, those 2 equations. That would give us, because there's no x squared in the first equation, we could keep 2x squared. Subtracting 12x minus 9x, that would give us 3x. And then finally, 5 minus a -3 would give us 8. So you would get 2, 3, and 8 there as those numbers. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to text me, and good luck on your test.